Hi, how are you guys today? My name is Jennifer Laurent, and for those of you that don't know me, I am the mom of a beautiful 5-year-old boy and the author of Excerpts from the Heart of a Mom. I originally wrote this book as a gift to my son, but as it came together, I decided that I wanted to share my message of conscious parenting with other moms. I truly believe that as parents, we can create deeply connected parent-child relationships that honor our children's wisdom and allow them to stay in touch with their authentic selves. My goal is to inspire parents to be present and curious, motivate them to make conscious choices for their families, rather than coming from a place of habit or just simply not knowing. We truly can make this job of parenting, everything that we desire it to be. And so I am extremely excited and grateful to have some amazing conscious bloggers here with me today to share their own thoughts and wisdom on this very important and very interesting topic of conscious parenting. My first guest today is Tracy Black. Tracy is the founder and chief blogger at Don't Mess with Mama. Don't Mess with Mama is a blog about parenting, green living, family and travel, and life as a far from perfect mom. I think that is something that we all are. She has 3 boys under the age of 9 and lives in San Diego, California. So hi, Tracy. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm good. How are you this morning?
I'm very well. Thank you. And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And, just wanted to say, I read your book and just loved it. There are so many, nuggets I sort of got out of it, so I'm excited to talk about it today.
Oh, great. So I'm excited to talk about your blog and kind of what you share, how we resonate with each other. So can you start by kind of telling us about what you write about and what Don't Mess with Mama is all about?
Yeah, I kind of came up with that name just because it's sort of the, sometimes my kids sort of work things with me, so I'm like, sort of the don't mess with me, kids, just because I sort of know that. And it's also sort of just me wanting to be a big advocate for them, everything from like the food that they eat to, wanting to make sure that they're healthy. It's sort of like, I have sort of protective don't mess with mom because, I'm always looking out for my kids. Really the sort of impetus behind the whole blog was I had been blogging for years just to family and friends, and I went public about 2 years ago, and the impetus behind it really just me wanting to share my story about imperfect parenting and letting other parents know that it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, before I went public with my blog, I would regularly take my pregnant friends aside and tell them, listen, parenting is not perfect. They're not going to go as you planned. And somehow it's going to seem like that helps us get along and, feel stressed or emotional or overwhelmed and wonder what you got yourself into. Don't worry, you've all been there. And so, I'll still talk about those things as well as other topics that are important to me, like green living.
I love that. And I love the emphasis on not being perfect and, being okay with that, being okay with exactly what you said, being emotional and making mistakes and all of that. And so I love that you share that.
Oh, thank you.
And so what are some of the other things you talk about at Don't Mess with Mama?
Sorry, say that again? Some other things that I like to talk about at Don't Mess with Mama is, like for instance, I uploaded, photos of my kid, for Christmas, and the baby is crying. And it's sort of it's like so perfect with the imperfect theme. It's not the perfect Christmas photo. My baby's crying. My other 2 are on either side of Santa, and they're smiling. And that's just sort of like the root of it all, is wanting to talk about that. But, some other topics that are really important to me are sort of healthy living and organic food and eating healthy. And so those are sort of the things that I advocate really hard for them for, as well as, education as well.
Right. And yeah, that's all, coming back to our theme today, conscious parenting, the healthy eating and education, all of that, being conscious and aware of all of that is so important as moms. So to kind of lead into the book, what were there any chapters that sort of resonated with you when you read excerpts from the Heart of Mom that you might want to share and talk about?
Yeah, I really felt like there's so many, like I said earlier, there were so many nuggets. It was really hard to pick one, so I actually picked two because they really relate to each other for me. I can totally relate to your experience, and you're expecting to have a girl when you're pregnant. I had always imagined myself as a little girl, this raised in a family full of women. I had no idea what to do with boys, and that's kind of just what I expected to have. And I really sort of thought my role was to sort of, pursue feminine equality, break through the glass ceiling for my daughter. And, just to be a huge advocate for women in the workplace and have leadership roles in society. And, I really felt like I had to be tough and not show vulnerability, especially in my career. But when I had my first son, everything changed. I was emotional because I had a little baby and I adored him. But, I wanted him to have the same opportunities that a little girl would have, but in a different way. I wanted him to feel like he could be a stay-at-home dad or pursue music or cooking or whatever he wanted to do. That he didn't have to live up to sort of, the stereotypical role that, boys have in society. And I sort of felt like, it became more clear to me that my role, at least for my kids, was, not to feel like they're marginalized in society. That we need to do more things for girls and have equality. But I think we need to do it for boys too, So, and I talk about a little bit this on my blog is, I'm a huge advocate for boys or any child, girl too, to have the ability to sort of move about in the classroom. Expecting 5-year-old little boys to sit in a kindergarten classroom all day just seems really, unrealistic to me. My boys in particular are so energetic and spatial. They literally take up a lot of space. And so, those are some things that I really advocate for. And, all through all that, that's sort of what I learned. Sort of my lesson is, it's not necessarily to look out for the role of girls. It's to really think about what role boys have in society and how can I help create those opportunities for them. And then kind of through all of that, I sort of learned to become vulnerable because in the beginning I'm like, I will not be vulnerable. I'm a perfectionist, I have to put on a good face. And, through all of this, I just learned that, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's actually really good to be vulnerable. It's good to show that to our kids.
So I love, what you're saying there. That raising, kind of raising a man and then bringing in that vulnerability lesson and something that they can model.
Yeah, and I feel like, what I got from your book is sort of the same thing as, I don't know if anybody's heard of Brene Brown, sort of a TEDx speaker, and she talks about sort of vulnerability and, resonated with me in her talk. What I also got from your book, Jennifer, is that sort of that vulnerability helps your children. We're always stoic and we tell them, don't worry, we've got it covered, we don't have a problem. They kind of feel like we're too perfect and they can't live up to that standard of perfection, when in reality it's furthest thing from the truth. Really, when we show kids that we're vulnerable and talk about it, that life isn't perfect and there's problems, give them the opportunity to see that life isn't perfect, but, we can work together to lead that.
Exactly. Learn how to talk things.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I appreciate you joining me today. And for everyone who's listening, you can connect with Tracy on Twitter at Don't Mess With Mom, on Facebook at facebook.com/Don't Mess With Mama, and check out the blog, don'tmesswithmama.com. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Have a great day. And my next guest is going to be Julie Knoll. Julie writes for the blog called Pursuit of Happiness. And her blog is about facing fears and fighting to like her own design. Hi, Julie. How are you today?
Oh, pretty good. Life of my own design is full of chaos today, but it's still
finding beauty in the chaos.
Oh, yeah.
So, tell us about Pursuit of Happiness and what.
Unlike Tracy, I am a perfect parent. No, just kidding. I'm totally not. I think for me, my blog is about got this idealistic view that we can all live a life of happiness or the life that we dream of. And in the process of doing that, thinking about what we really want to teach our kids when it comes down to the kind of humans we want to be. And I think that the best thing we can teach and demonstrate to our kids is how to be happy. And I think that that's what people miss out on a lot. And so I kind of talk about that. I talk about the fear of actually going after our dreams, fear of risking the things that we think we need to get what we really want, and kind of having the courage to do that. But yeah, I think that the best thing that we can demonstrate is just to be happy and chase our dreams.
Yeah, and that truly is our job in life, right? To be joyful and to find our happiness. And so I love that you write about that. And I love what you said about, raising humans. I think sometimes we forget that these beings are going to be out in the world one day.
Yeah,
so I
and there's so much to raising a happy, confident person versus a skilled and, clever one necessarily. So I want confident kids who are courageous enough to chase their dreams, and I think that's what my husband and I kind of focus on, listening and talking about that. So yeah, your book for me was great as well, because it talked about a lot of those concepts, about the listening, about the recognizing that they're here living their own journey. And I think that's really important.
What were some of or one or two of the chapters that sort of resonated for you?
I like the journeys, our child's not our own. I remember talking to people after we've got 3 kids, so I kind of figured that out early on that was what we were here for, was to guide them on their journey. And I talked to women who were planning their birth experience and doing things that put their kids at risk or their child's risk. And I always say, it's not really my birth experience. I always look at it as the child's birth experience,
Right.
And we so early on, from conception on, start to still put ourselves first without recognizing that we're just that safe harbor to help the child come into the world and to grow the kid into an amazing human being, and being able to guide and support versus lead and dominate has always been really important to me. So I love that one. And, the I'm sorry one as well can be pretty good. I'm fallible. I fail every day. I'm not an amazing parent, but an honest one. And I do tell my kids if I drop the ball, and we do recognize as a family, that not everything can happen, and that we are a big family. And so everybody's kind of got to accommodate and recognize when we miss something.
Yeah, and I think that in and of itself is what makes us amazing parents, is our willingness to do that and be willing to be accountable for the fact that we're not perfect, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I think we forget that we're living in a house with other beings, right?
Right, exactly.
We sometimes look at them as accessories, and they're just not, right? They're these own little creatures that are living their own life, and it's kind of neat when you start to look at it that way.
Yeah, exactly. And honoring and providing that space to be their being, which I'm sure households people.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Especially if they eventually turn out right? That would be good.
Right, exactly. Well,
they're still speaking to us in 20 years. We're lucky.
Right, exactly. Check back with us and see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, taking the risk. I want my kids to know that there's more to life than just existing in it, and that I think as every parent, we all just want our kids to be happy, and yet we forget that that's something we need to demonstrate. And so I think I want to empower all the parents out there to find their own happiness, and through that, I think your kids are going to learn what that means. I don't want my kids going and plugging away 10 hours a day somewhere they don't want to be. I want to find joy in life. So.
That's beautiful. Well, and thank you for sharing that. And, you're doing a beautiful job on your blog of getting the message out. So,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. To everyone listening, you can find Julie on Facebook at facebook.com/JulieNolan.com. And you can find her on Twitter at Julie Noel, at JulieNoell. And her blog is JulieNolan.com. And we'll move on to my next guest, Christine Callahan. Christine writes 2 blogs. She writes The Brighter Side of Parenting, and she also writes The Brighter Side of Life. On Brighter Side of Parenting, she writes about finding patience in the everyday chaos of life. And on The Brighter Side of Life, she shares some thoughts on her quest for the quote-unquote meaning. And so, Christine, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for being on the call and talking with us. I'm excited to hear you share about your blog.
Thanks so much for having me here. When I read blog, but also when I read your book, it just really, really resonated with me. So it's a pleasure to be here to talk about it. But for me, my blogging journey started just over a year ago. And it's funny because I knew I wanted to write for a long time, but I was kind of hesitant, and finally I just decided. So I started The Brighter Side of Life, and I didn't really know what I was going to write about or if anyone would read it. I just knew I was drawn to it, and I knew I needed to write from my glass half full perspective and just see where that led me. So it's a collection of just general musings on life and everyday adventures and my quest for purpose, and it's really grown for me. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's been a amazing process.
I can tell you I enjoyed reading it and following the thoughts that you put out there. So, and then to add to now The Brighter Side of Parenting, which is another gift. So tell us about that one too.
Thanks. Yeah, you know what? It happened this past fall. I thought I'd really love to extend my brighter philosophy to the parenting space, because I have 2 young boys, one is 6 and one is 2, and they're just such a wonderful gift to me. So exhausting and everything all at once. But anyway, The Brighter Side of Parenting is meant to be sort of a space where parents can come take refuge and recenter themselves for a few minutes, and whether it be their best parenting day or their worst parenting day, it's a place to come and just regroup and read something about some stuff about the more positive side of parenting.
I love that. And so, in just relating it to excerpts, I think, we do share some similar ideas on being conscious with our children. What was something in the book or a chapter in the book that resonated for you?
You know what? There were several, but I think the one that hit me the most was about being a student for life. So me, the mom, being a student for life, and that is so absolutely true. My goodness, I mean, we're of course here to guide our children and to sort of foster their unique spirit, but at the same time, I had no idea before becoming a parent just how much I would learn about me, about life, about just so many different things I want to re-embrace that you kind of forget when you grow into adulthood, right? Like, courage and perseverance. My little guy, my youngest, when he was about a year, he was learning to walk. And, it didn't matter, of course, how many times he fell, bumped his head or bumped into things and hurt himself. He was determined he was going to learn to walk. That's all the little ones do, right? But it's just interesting to kind of sit back as a parent and realize, holy cow, how many things do I hold off on because I'm scared or because I don't get hurt or, I don't know. You just don't know what the repercussions will be, so you hold back. Whereas kids are determined. They want to do something, and they'll do it. You know. So that's one of the things I've learned from my kids. Also, a huge thing I've learned from them is living in the moment, right? When you have this little being that's really insistent right in front of you, mommy, you know, it doesn't matter what work stuff you have going on or what is going on around you. You have to be with that little person. And it's really good because I've noticed all sorts of amazing things in the moment that I might not have recognized had I not had kids, you know. Like, wow, look at that incredible sunset, or look at this ice cube melting. Isn't that cool? You know, it's like big deal, you know, big deal. But when you see it from the outside, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I love your examples. I love the example of your son learning how to walk, and just, you know, combining just being so present that your head doesn't kind of get in the way and make you back off. They just keep going. And so, yeah, I mean, those are great examples of being a student and then taking that into our lives, you know. And
yeah, exactly. I'm growing as a person because of them. And you know what? Honestly, I believe that I'm learning more from them than I can possibly teach them. But, you know, it's all part of the cycle, right? So I'm teaching and guiding where I can, but I'm just learning by leaps and bounds from my kids, and how cool, you know.
Yeah, how interesting that, you know, we always think our children need us so much, but, you know, we really need them too. So, you know, as well.
Yeah, and you know what, you raised a really good point. I remember in the chapter about not being afraid to acknowledge to our kids that, wow, I learned that from you, and that's great. And, you know, that's empowering to them too. So I thought what an excellent point, and I do try and do that with my older son. And when my younger son gets it, I will with him too.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny to see their faces too. And they're like, I taught you that? You didn't know that?
I know, exactly.
That makes their day.
Yeah, and it's fun to see that joy in their face too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, talking with me, and sharing about your book and your thoughts on the book. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
And I will continue to follow you. I love it. So for everyone listening, you can connect with Christine at the brighter side of parenting.com and also the brighter side of life.ca. And thank you again. And so I'm going to move on to Erica McDaniel. Hi, how are you? Erica McDaniel writes a blog on consciousparents.org that helps parents raise physically, emotionally, and spiritually healthy children, which, gosh, is just so important, and understand the blend of all aspects of who we are. So, Erica, I'd like to know a little bit about your blog and what you write about.
Sure. Well, I'm so excited to be here because, Jen, when I first read your book, and I felt like I was you. I mean, you and I have so many parallel experiences. I was a single mom like you, and I think we have some similar paths. So a lot of what you said just really resonated with me. But you know, I kind of came to doing this website not really by accident, but it's sort of the culmination of many, many years of work where it kind of all came together naturally in one place. And I have a background in, you know, business and all that. I gave it all up when I was a single mom to go back to school to become a clinical nutritionist. So I started a natural healing practice and learned all these disciplines and worked a lot with clients on mind, body, spirit connection. So people usually do physical things, but ultimately everything is about what lessons we learn, what we develop in our health and all that stuff. So, and also at the same time, I was a mom. So I am the eternal student, always learning, and everything kind of came together naturally. It was almost like people around me kept coming to me for advice on all these different things, and I said, well, why don't I just get it out there, see what happens. So that's kind of how it came to be and what I'm working on.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Once you start kind of realizing, you know, your purpose and what people are coming to you for, and then being willing to put that out there and just shift and help us through their process.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the conscious parenting journey for me is that when I first started this site, I thought I was going to be a facilitator of a discussion. It was like I was going to feature other experts in all these different areas, and I was going to facilitate the discussion. And it dawned on me that through I was in a meditation once, and it came to me that I really needed to actually get myself more involved. So for me, being a conscious parent, it was about facing my biggest fears and being vulnerable and exposed in a pretty public way. But I knew that if that was what I was advocating to parents, to be authentic and to be who they truly are, then I needed to do the same with my work. So it did shift from what it started out with, but it's part of the journey as a conscious parent.
Right. And, yeah, how beautiful an example for your children to watch you face your fears and move yourself into a place of discomfort.
Exactly.
So what about, for the book, when you mentioned how it resonated with you, were there certain chapters that really stuck out for you or that you want to share?
A lot. I think so many of your points. I love the way in your book you've taken some you've covered a lot of concepts around conscious parenting, put it in a way that is so manageable and digestible for parents. I think that's such a powerful part of the way you've written the book. But for me, there were two chapters that I thought I couldn't pick between the two because they kind of were things. And one is that sometimes it is all about you. And I know a lot of times when I work with clients, everyone's always kind of like, oh, can you just fix my kids? Like, my kids are a problem, my kids are acting out, so can you fix my child? But the whole journey of conscious parenting is realizing that the family dynamic is a unit, and the children often mirror what we are feeling inside. And if our child is acting out and behaving, oftentimes we really do need to look at what we're putting out. And sometimes that's behavior. Sometimes it's literally on an energetic level. Children are very sensitive. They can feel things even when they're babies. So sort of the first exercise of conscious parenting is to kind of start that journey and to really understand how your child is reflecting you. And the other one is the one about you don't need work to communicate, because, again, it's sort of a very similar idea. Mm-hmm. I know that, like you said in the chapter, so many parents might think that their child is a blank slate, or they're not aware of things, or they're not consciously understanding what's going on. So they'll have appropriate conversations in front of the children. But children, especially through instinct, are imprinting on their subconscious mind, and they don't remember in their subconscious mind what we're saying. They observe what we do, and that's what they're going to remember. So they're going to look at how do we handle when we get upset? Do we get frustrated? Do we talk badly about other people when we're at home? Like, that's the kind of stuff that parents really need to be aware of. What is modeling for their children? So
exactly.
I think that's all those went together.
I love how you said, how we're imprinting on our children, because it's just that, just because they might not be able to put a definition next to a specific word that states it, they're getting it at a completely different level and understanding it in such a deeper way.
Yeah, it's funny because I did a video on my site about a year ago where I talk about the same point where, and I'm sure you can relate to this because being a single mom, there were a couple times where I'm like, I just need 5 minutes to send an email. And it was like I'd been attentive and present with my daughter all day. And I'm like, can I just have 5 minutes? And that's when she most became the clingiest she's ever been, because she could sense my disconnect, and it unnerved her, because usually I was her point of reference of stability and calm. But when I was off, it made her nervous because she just felt me being off. And she was, a toddler at the time. And what I realized is that, okay, I need to just sit down, let go of my need to send this email and just speak. And the next thing I know, I just sat with her, and I'm totally present with her, and all of a sudden, everything was fine, and then I went and was able to do my email. But so it's just amazing how children really can reflect what's going on inside, just from an energetic level.
Yeah, and like you said at the end, you end up getting to do what you need to do anyway, and there is a way to find that to find the ability to connect with your child and give them what they need, and then still manage to get, your email sent out.
Yeah, and I think, too, the last point of just nonverbal communication is so important. And I know for me, I did baby sign language with my daughter, and I kind of thought that was sort of a silly thing when I first heard about it, but then when I did it, the most profound thing to our relationship, she learned at a very young age that she had an opportunity to connect with me through signs. And she never had the terrible attitude or she had tantrums because deep down she just had this trust that she could connect with me. Sometimes it might take a little longer, but she knew she had a way to communicate. It was pretty amazing. So
I agree. I did the same with my son, and same thing. No terrible twos, no terrible threes. There was just always an ability to talk, and even though he went to energy, he had a way to get his emotions across and his feelings across, and be heard. So
that was amazing.
Yeah, great point. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that and for sharing about your site and your thoughts about the book. It was really nice to connect with you.
Same here. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good day. And for those of you that want to connect with Erica, you can find her at consciousparents.org, and that's where you'll find her blog, and then Facebook.com, consciousparents.org, and on Twitter, cparents.org. So thanks again, and I'm going to move on to Shelley Berger-Phillips. Shelley Berger writes for awakeparent.com, and she shares practical tools for intentional moms on how to enjoy parenting more and how to help kids choose to cooperate and to contribute. So welcome, Shelley. Thank you so much for joining me today and speaking with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
How are you today?
Great. There's snow falling outside my window. It's a beautiful day.
Oh, wow. Well, I love just a little bit just that about what your blog is about, helping kids choose to cooperate and contribute. So tell us a little more about that and your blog and what you write about.
Yeah, sure. My blog is all about conscious parenting and intentional parenting, but it really comes from a perspective of understanding child development. I did my undergrad in psychology with an emphasis in early child development, and then I went and I worked at Montessori schools as an assistant teacher, and so I kind of got into the world of the young child in preparation for being a parent. And I'm so glad that I did, because I learned so much from all of the kids that I worked with. And pretty soon, moms, friends of mine, and moms that I nannied for started asking me, Shelley, how do you do this? And how can you have a clear boundary but also be playful with them? And so that's why I started awakeparent.com. Started it even before I was a parent myself. And it's just been a way for me to share all of the knowledge and experience that I've had with kids, with other parents, let them know that they're not alone in their struggles, and then, give them kind of step-by-step ways to get out of a negative cycle or destructive situation and into a more positive one.
I love that. What kind of things, I move back to that last, I love it, helping kids choose to cooperate and contribute, because there's such a difference in children making their own choices versus, them being reprimanded or demanded into contributing and sorts of things. And I think a lot of parents are stuck in that. Can you talk a little bit about that piece?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I come from a perspective of gentle and positive discipline. I don't think it ever really works to force kids to do things they don't want to do. I think that undermines our connection with our kids, and in my experience, it's all about the connection. When we're connected with our kids, they want to come with us and put their shoes on and do the things that we ask them to do. And when they feel that disconnect, then they're just going to dig their heels in and fight against us. And then we end up in these power struggles that are no fun for anyone.
Definitely not.
And I think too that recognizing a child as innately capable has made a big difference. That in Montessori philosophy, children are able to do things on their own that we often don't allow them to do. We think that we need to put on their shoes or put on their coat or we have to cook dinner when they're just as capable as whisking an egg as we are. And it gives them joy, a sense of personal satisfaction to be able to do those things and have some autonomy. So that's kind of the way that I, help kids and parents to get out of the power struggle and into cooperation and contribution. Oftentimes parents look around and they go, "Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. I have been tying my, 6-year-old shoes." Or what am I doing? And it just sometimes we forget and we just keep doing these things for kids. When my 2-year-old, she loves to whisk her eggs in the morning. This is her new favorite skill, and what a great help for me because then I can make my coffee while she's whisking her eggs.
Right. Exactly. and that part is the more capable they realize they are, the more they want to do. And so,
absolutely.
They want to do stuff around the house. They want to help. They want to do as much as they can. So
yeah. So some of my favorite parts of your book. I mean, first of all, I loved Set Your Intention for the Mother's Well-Being. And my blog this week, funny enough, is about setting intentions for the new year. So that one really spoke to me. But the one I really feel inspired to talk about with you today is about don't take yourself too seriously. This idea of, having humor and games and fun and being with kids is and can be really fun. I mean, I laugh more when I spend the day with my daughter than I ever do when I'm sitting in front of my computer or, hanging out with other adults. There's just a joy and an ease toward laughter and fun and game playing that kids have that we lose as adults. So I want to reinvigorate that and play games as much as possible. And I find that that's also a really great way out of a power struggle. Turn it into a game.
Yeah, definitely. And they're so willing to play games at every moment. And so it really is this way to kind of do two things, get your child motivated and let yourself go at the same time and connect, which I think is what we're all looking to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one other thing I want to share with that piece is that I think that we all have pent up emotions that things happen throughout the day and we have feelings about them and we may not share or express them in that moment. And when we play games with our kids and we laugh and we joke and we run around and get physical and all of that, we can release those feelings through laughter, which for me personally is a lot more fun than releasing them through tears. I'm happy to hold space for my daughter when she does need to cry, and she sometimes does. But we release a lot of our feelings through laughter, and I just think that's more fun.
Yeah, I love that. I do. I love that idea, and finding there is room, making sure there's room to understand all the feelings and feel them and all of that, but to understand that there's a kinder, gentler way out.
Yeah, there really is. We don't have to take a stand in the way that we might think we have to based on our own childhood experiences of being raised by parents. We can actually work with our child to find a better, more fun way out that's respectful to everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on my book and for speaking about the blog, which is so inspiring. Really give parents practical ways like ways that they can actually make this happen. So I thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. And thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, I look forward to continuing to connect and follow you. So for everyone listening, you can connect with Shelly on Twitter at AwakeShelly and on Facebook.com/AwakeParent. And her blog is awakeparent.com/blog. So thank you very much, Shelly. And our last guest today is Jen Pasawan. And Jen writes for a blog called Mama Papa Baba. And she writes about the adventures of a family, including posts about coastal living, travel, healthy eating, craftiness, and old-fashioned way. So, hi, Jen. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I'm excited to hear about Mom, Pop, Bubba, and for you to share kind of what you write about. So, start there.
Okay, well, to be honest, my blog got kind of a different start than many. At the time, we were living in Kuwait, and we had just had our first daughter in Canada, and we were returning home to Kuwait with a baby who was 20 days old. So, in the beginning, the blog was my way of just sharing our day-to-day lives with our family and friends back home and allowing them to kind of feel like they were part of her first year of life, even though they were far away. And since then, it's kind of grown and changed over time. It's become my wiki, a sort of modern-day baby book for my little girl. And it's a place I hope that our little girl will visit one day in the future. But it's also become a place for me to reflect on my role as a mother and my intention, too.
I love that. And reflecting on ourselves and being to kind of look back and use that as a way to connect further in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of put up? Like, what are some examples of the things that you write?
Well, I've read about all different ways to spend time with kids. I read a lot of healthy living, being outdoors, healthy eating and baking, a lot of the big menu with my girl. And a lot of old-fashioned play ideas, because I think that's something that's really important for kids, but also as a way for parents to connect with their kids, too.
Yeah, I think talking about what Shelly and I are speaking about, and not taking ourselves so seriously, that old-fashioned play comes in. What are some of the old-fashioned play ideas that maybe like your favorite one or your favorite two?
Well, for us, I mean, it can be anything, whether we're outside in nature, or if we're inside and like building blocks, so, dress-up clothes, tea sets, or puppets. I think the old-fashioned sort of play, the stuff that we grew up with, it allows me to feel a lot more connected to my daughter, and activities that are open-ended and imaginative. They let us have conversation and share feelings that it just wouldn't be possible, if we were watching a TV show together or using the iPad and playing with the modern toys that flash and blink and watch them do things. So for me, it all comes back to a way of connecting with my little girl and doing things that encourage conversations and sharing our feelings and talking while we're doing that.
Beautiful. With some of the bridge that to the book and your impressions of excerpts and kind of what your favorite or what resonated with you most in the book.
Yeah, and for me, honestly, like I said in the book, every single chapter was like, yes, I totally understand what she's saying. But there are a couple of them that really stood out for me. And one was All We Need Is Love, because I think that is the number one thing that kids need from us. They need to know that they're loved no matter which they take or the mistakes they make or, whether it's a good day or a bad day, that they're always going to be loved by their parents. But the one that kind of linked in with fashion play for me was the set your intention for the parent you want to be. So for me, being a stay-at-home mom, I think it's easy for me and maybe other moms to fall into that, trap of worrying about your house being clean and getting everything done, doing a million things you have to do as a mom. And is to watch that moment. And that's really to spend time with my daughter and connect with her. And that's why I think the chapter of setting your intentions resonates so much with me.
Yeah, we can, have a simple statement that we can just check in with, because otherwise we can use ourselves in daily, everyday chaos of being a mom.
There's so many things going on, so many things. There's so many different directions your attention could go, let it. And for me, the important thing is remembering the reason I am not home right now is because of my daughter, and it's not because I need to have sparkly clean floors or every single thing in my to-do list stop, because she's the reason I'm here right now.
Right. And I love the way that you tied that chapter of, setting attention into everyday life experience that seems so simple, but is really not. And so, thank you so much for sharing, your thoughts on the book, for telling us about your blog. I know I look forward to continuing to follow you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
And for everyone who's listening, you can find Jen on Twitter at JKOSSOWN, Facebook.com/Mama Papa Bubba blog, and also Facebook.com/Lilith, and her blog is mamapapabubba.com. Thank you, Jen. Thank you all the mom bloggers that joined me today and spoke to me about conscious parenting. I truly appreciate you taking your time and sharing your thoughts with me and with everybody listening about my book and about conscious parenting.
All right. So at this point, Jen, you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
This is Laura again. I just want to open things up now. If anybody has any questions for any of the panelists, if you have questions for each other, this would be the time to do it. So just say your name and then say who you have a question for, if indeed you do, because we do have, we have about 10 minutes to do that.
Hi there, Christine. Actually, Laura, I have a question for you. Okay. Tell me the *1 now.
Yeah, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's not worry about it. But thank you.
Okay.
If it will just put the form in.
Okay. Sure. Well, since I'm here, maybe I'll ask a question. Jen, I'm curious, just because I was talking about, a few of the things I've learned from my boys. What would you say is one of the biggest things you've learned from your son? Not in all the intentional preparation that you did prior to having him, which is incredible and awesome, but from himself. What would you say?
I would say the biggest one that always stands out for me is his ability to put himself first, but always make sure that he gets it across in a way that is kind. I think something that I struggled with in my life was always putting other people first, even if it meant ignoring how I felt and putting my feelings aside. And so if somebody invited someone and I didn't want to go, but it would hurt their feelings, I would do anyway. And I watched my son really honor the things that he feels inside. So, like, for example, if he had a day planned with me and his nanny wanted to join us, he if he didn't want that, he would, in a really kind way, say, thank you, but no, I want to spend the day with my mom. And watching him have the courage to do that has given me kind of the inspiration I need to, like, face that fear of months and really kind of change that about myself. And I got the way to do that. And honoring myself feels so much better than putting myself aside for other people. So I think that's kind of the biggest one that I learned from him.
That's amazing. They're so wise, aren't they?
Oh, God, I know. It's just, it's fit all, really. I mean, I remember the first time watching him do something like that, and he's probably doing it the whole time, but the first time I was actually able to tune into it, and just, I was in awe of it, of how simple it was for him, and how beautiful it was, the way he did it.
Yes. Especially to do it and communicate it sensitively, you know.
Yeah. And they just know that, that, you know, you honor yourself and you still take care of others in the process.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I think that's this is Erica. That's such a great example, Jeff, of the part about being a conscious parent, and one of the amazing rewards is that when we observe our child do something that was a struggle for us. And I know for me, I have that same thing where I watch my daughter do things and I go, I'm so amazed and in awe of her. I use the same words you do because I go, wow, that's something I still as an adult am not able to do. And thank you for showing me that you're doing this. And it just makes me feel like, you know, as a parent, I'm helping her in ways that, you know, I kind of got myself out of the way. Maybe she would have done it anyway, but I think that's one of the amazing gifts that our children can give.
Definitely. And the more we are in tuned in, the more we have access to that, and the more, you know, we can build on that. And then I think, you know, the step too is acknowledging to them when you can, and letting them know, you know, what they've taught you and how they've inspired you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great question.